A very good morning and a warm welcome to all of you to our Meet the Scholar program organized by our Math Forum Sign of Course of Department of Mathematics, TKM College of Arts and Science. Thank you for all for finding time and joining with us for this program. We are so privileged to have the resource person, Dr. Manil T. Mohan Sir from IIT Roorkee for this program. First of all, I would like to welcome our Sign of Course coordinator, Professor Ajas VK Sir, for the welcome speech.
Hello, good morning to all. So we are here for our third Meet the Scholar program. Meet the Scholar program is one of the main regular activity of our Math Forum Sign of Course. As most of you knows, Sign of Course, which was started as a platform for discussing mathematics, now became the backbone of activities of our department. Today we have with us Dr. Manil D. Mohan from Indian Institute of Technology, Roorkee. He is one of my good friend and he belongs to the same native place in Thiruvananthapuram. He is a brilliant person who achieved a lot in his career through his hard work and passion for studies. I feel proud to invite him for this program on behalf of Sign of Course and on my own behalf. Today on side I am very happy to be here for this program, but on the other side I am not so happy because coincidentally this day and this program happens to be a farewell program for our head of the department, Professor Narayana Prasad. He is moving from here to a college in Palakkad, which is his native place. So we together joined this college 10 years back and we were together for many things, for sports, for travel, for food, for movies and for academics. And his exit is a great loss for our college and particularly for me. So I would like to take this opportunity to wish him all the best in his future endeavors and I welcome him for this program. I also welcome all the other department faculties and also all the other students in our department. There are a number of participants from outside our college. I welcome them also for this program and thank you.
Our chief guest, Dr. Manil T. Mohan, dear colleagues and my dear students, good morning to all. Our department introduced Meet the Scholar program to provide a platform for students to discuss various aspects of mathematics with eminent academicians. This program also provides a space to clarify scholars' doubts about some particular challenges that they faced during their math study. The main objective of this program is to develop mathematical curiosity and enhance knowledge, skills, and attitude to pursue further studies in mathematics. Today, in the third Meet the Scholar program, we got Dr. Manil T. Mohan, Assistant Professor, IIT, as our resource person. His presence in this program is a reflection of his interest in discussing mathematics with young minds. I am sure that his talk will appreciate the usefulness, power, and beauty of mathematics. I hope all of you will enjoy the session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for all the support and strength you have provided us during your tenure as an HOD of our department. Before we move on to our awaited session, let me call upon our Sign of Course second year PG coordinator, Ms. Leah Susan, to introduce our resource person before you. Leah, please.
Hello everyone, a warm welcome and morning to all. I know you are all excited about the talk that we have today regarding the topic Introduction to Optimal Control Theory. We have an amazing speaker, Dr. Manil T. Mohan, sir, Assistant Professor, Department of Mathematics, IIT Roorkee. He is a resourceful person in various areas and had his BSc and MSc in mathematics at Marivanios College, Trivandrum, and PhD from Indian Institute of Science, Education and Research, Trivandrum. He was the first rank holder in BSc Mathematics and secured fourth position in MSc Mathematics at Kerala University. Also achieved Sir T. Madhava Rao Gold Medal for the year 2006. He also served as Faculty Improvement Program Substitute Lecturer in Mathematics at University College, Trivandrum. He had his research experience as CSIR Junior Research Fellow, CSIR Senior Research Fellow, National Board of Higher Mathematics Postdoctoral Fellow at School of Mathematics, ISER, Trivandrum, National Academy of Science, National Research Council Postdoctoral Fellow, Air Force Institute of Technology, USA, and as visiting scientist at Indian Statistical Institute, Bengaluru. He had his research interest at stochastic analysis, partial differential equations, control theory, mathematical fluid dynamics, optimization problems with orthogonal matrix constraint. He had many achievements such as Inspire Faculty Award, National Research Council Postdoctoral Fellowship, NBHM Postdoctoral Fellowship, Institute Postdoctoral Fellowship, CSIR Junior Research Fellowship, and so on. We are really fortunate to have such a graceful person here with us. I know that you are all eagerly waiting for his talk. Me too. Now let me hand over the first session to our resource person, Manisa. Sir, please.
Thank you so much for the kind introduction and kind words from all of you. And it's a great opportunity for me to interact with you people, young minds. And so I hope that this is going to be useful for you. So let me start sharing my screen first. So I hope that you can see my screen now. Yes. So you can see my screen right now, right? So
Yes, sir,
yeah,
we can.
okay, thank you. So let me start. So this is an introduction to mathematical optimal control theory. So this is the outline of my whole presentation. And let us go one by one. So I'm starting with the dynamics, differential equation. So let me open my discussion with a simple differential equation, say x dot equal to f of x, with an initial condition given to be x0 at x of 0. Now, so you can think like in this way, say x dot equal to x with x of 0 equal to 1. So you will get e power x as a solution or e power t as a solution. And at initial data 1, you will get one solution. Some other initial data, you may get another solution. So you will get different trajectories as you change your initial data. So I'm looking at the dynamics of a differential equation. That's what my main aim is. And I'm not considering one dimension. I'm considering many dimensions. So that's why I'm taking it as a vector. So x dot equal to f of xt with x of 0 equal to x naught. So here f is a mapping from Rn to Rn. X naught belongs to Rn. So meaning it is a system of equations. Say x1 dot equal to f of x1, x2, etc., xn, x2 dot equal to f of x2, etc., xn, like that. Okay. Now f is a mapping from Rn to Rn, and the unknown curve, so x, which is a mapping from 0 infinity to Rn, which we interpret it as a dynamic evolution. Why it is an evolution? Because you are starting from time 0 and you are evolving the trajectory up to some say time t. That's why it is called a evolution or the state of the system. Now I want to study the properties of the solution. So there are several questions you can ask, whether a solution exists, if the solution exists, whether it is unique, if it is unique, whether it is continuously depending on the data, meaning if you change the initial data small, then whether the solution will also change by a small, or it may be have a abrupt change in the solution. So if it is only small change in the solution, we call it as a continuously depending on the initial data. So there are several questions you can ask by starting with the dynamics of a differential equation. My important aim is not that. My important aim is something different. So I just want to add one more variable in my f, say F is now a mapping which is from Rn cross A to Rn. So A is a subset of some say Rm. You can think another variable I am adding to F. So we call it as control. Later we will call it as control parameter. For example, if I add say point A, it's a constant. Suppose I am adding a constant. So A in A. So I will transform my trajectory to x dot equal to f of x t A. For example, you can think in this way. Suppose you take a one-dimensional equation. Say x dot equal to x. Now you add a parameter, say 1. So x dot equal to x plus 1. That is the meaning I am adding a parameter means. So it can be either a constant or a function. It can be anything. Okay. So first I am adding just a constant. So that means, of course, you can see you have an initial trajectory. If you add a constant, the trajectory is going to change. So my objective is now to change this A itself. Meaning, now I am trying to consider a situation where I am changing my A as a function of time. How I am changing my A? I am taking some alpha t. How I am taking some alpha t? Up to say time interval t1, I am taking one constant. Say from t1 to t2, I am taking another constant. t2 to t3, I am taking another constant. A3 like that. So initially I have a one trajectory. Then I changed my trajectory with one constant parameter. Now I am changing my trajectory with some arbitrary parameters. In the sense like in some interval I am applying some constant. In another interval I am applying another constant. Another interval I am applying another constant like that. Now I can consider my differential equation as a mapping x dot equal to f of xt alpha now with x of 0 equal to x naught. So I am calling this alpha as a control parameter. Why I am calling this as a control parameter? You can easily see this picture. It is a time over the y-axis. I am starting from x naught. My trajectory was going somewhere. I applied a control A1 up to time t1. At t1, I applied another control A2. So I am able to change my trajectory in another way. At t2, I am applying another control. So my trajectory is changed in another way. At t3, I am applying another control. So I am getting A4 in another way. That means by applying this control, I can change the entire trajectory. That original trajectory may be something else. Now you can see easily, I can easily change my trajectory by applying some external forcing. You can think it as an external forcing. So by applying an external forcing, I am able to change my complete trajectory. It is very important. You are going to see in some of the examples that why it is so important to change the trajectory. Okay, so let us start with the more mathematical. I am not going to much mathematical, but let us start with the problem in a more general setting. So we call this parameter alpha, which is a mapping from 0 infinity to A, which we call it as a control, and the corresponding trajectory. So if you apply one control, I will get one trajectory. If you change your control, you will get another trajectory. So we will call these trajectories are response. So if you apply one control, you will get one response. If you apply another control, you will get another response. Basically, your trajectory x is depending upon your control as well as your initial data. And your control, the trajectory is called the response. The alpha is called the control. Now, so I am taking the class A. Don't worry about I am assuming like it is measurable or something. There is a reason for assuming measurability. If you don't know measurable, forget it. Don't worry about measurability, because in mathematical terms, we need suitable controls. The question is, you cannot have any control. We need to have some control which we can measure, in the sense like sometimes the control may be integrable. So in order to be, you know that not every functions are integrable. There are several functions which are not integrable. So I need to have a class of functions which may be integrable or which may be differentiable. So I am taking a general class which contains set of all controls, say alpha from 0 infinity to A, which are measurable functions. Of course, you will study in your measure theory class that connection between measurability and integrability and all. So that's why forget about measurability right now. The meaning is I need a set of control which I can mathematically explain in a proper way. I can give a justification. That's why I take this admissible class. So I'm taking all my control from this class A. And as I mentioned earlier, my trajectory will always depend on the control as well as the initial parameter. Okay. Now, as I mentioned, as my slide says, my question is about optimal control theory. So why optimal control theory? That is a question. Now my question, so for example, say I can give a simple example. Suppose you start a hotel in your in your locality. So what you are thinking about your hotel? First thing is, your main objective is to minimize the cost and maximize the profit. That is your primal objective. Now, in order to maximize the profit and minimize the cost, you cannot you cannot have any you cannot give any bad food or something in order to make the cost to be less. So you have to have a reasonable quality of food so that people will come. Those who are coming one time, they should come again. So your aim is that. So I have to attract customers, plus I need maximum profit, plus I need minimum cost. So under these conditions, how I can maximize something. So that's what I am doing here also. So I may have something which has to be maximized or minimized. So I'm calling it as a payoff or a reward. So my payoff function is given by this. So that's why in the beginning also I told you alpha has to be an integrable function. That's why I took that measurability condition. So you can see the payoff contains the integral. So that integral has to be make sense. That's why measurability will come to play a role here. So my cost functional or my payoff function, I am defining it as P of alpha, which is integral 0 to t, R of x, it is a function of x and alpha, plus a g of x of t. Meaning, see, maximizing profit does not mean that you are maximizing profit at the end only. You have to maximize the profit maybe every day. You have to maximize the profit maybe every minute. That's why your running cost, which is R, should be from 0 to t. And you should have a terminal cost, terminal payoff also. In the sense like, maybe you want to do another business, so you want to sell your hotel. So what you have to do? Maybe after 2 years, I want to start another business. So I have to have an aim that after 2 years, I will stop this business. At that time, I should make the maximum profit. So there should be a terminal cost also or terminal payoff also. So R is called the running payoff, which is starting from 0 to t, and G is called the terminal payoff. So R is a function of x and t, and G is just x of t, x at what is the final outcome at capital T. So my major objective is to maximize a cost functional. If all my problems are maximization problem, I am going to do maximization problem. So you can think it as like a maximizing a profit. That's what our aim is. So it is a maximization problem. There is a running cost, which is R. There is a terminal cost, which is G. Running cost is a mapping from Rn cross A to R, where A is the set of all controls, and G is the terminal cost is a mapping from Rn to R. So this is my basic problem, which is defined through payoff. Now the question is how you can maximize the payoff. What do you mean by maximum? A maximum means, of course, as all of you know, there will be a control alpha star for which P of alpha star will be greater than or equal to P of alpha for any control from your control class. Whatever the control you take from the control class, P of alpha star must be greater than or equal to P of alpha. Such alpha star is always called an optimal control. Okay, this is what the optimal control means. Now there are several questions in your mind. What are the mathematically relevant questions that you can ask? The first question, does there exist such an optimal control? This is the first question. You defined what is an optimal control. Okay, agree. Now the question is there any such optimal control exist? That is the first question. Now the second question, if it exists, how will you mathematically characterize the optimal control? Is there any way to characterize the optimal control? That is the second question. Now third question, okay, you show that there is an optimal control. You mathematically characterize the optimal control also. Characterization does not imply how will you find the optimal control. How you can construct the optimal control. For engineers, for scientists, mathematically justifying something is not enough. They need to construct what is the optimal control. Construction is a very important part for engineers and technologies. So we need to construct the optimal control also. So these are the basic three questions we have to ask. So it turns out to be a subtle problem. It is a very important problem, and it is one of the most developed areas of mathematics also, especially as an application of differential equation is much developed area. And people, there were several people like Lyons, Zua, people like them worked a lot in this area. Lyons got a Fields Medal. also for his work in optimal control theory. So it's a very large area, very big area. Still, people are exploring a lot thing from this area, and it's very important for engineering and technology also. Okay. So let me start with some examples. I'm not going to any mathematics. I will just give you some examples so that your understanding of optimal control theory will be better. So I'm giving a simple example. Suppose you own a factory and you can control the output of your factory. That's what your factory is. Now I am defining xt as the amount of output produced at a time t. So I know what output at time t is produced. I am calling it as x of t. And now my strategy is what? My strategy is you take some output from the factory, you reinvest into the factory. They say take a fraction of output, you put it again in the factory, then you run the factory. So I am taking alpha t to be the fraction of output that is reinvested at a time t. Of course, since I am taking a fraction, alpha t will be always between 0 and 1 for each time. It is because it is a fraction, say like 10% or 20%, meaning I know what is the output. I am taking 10%. I will reinvest 10%, and 90% I will take in my hand, or I will reinvest 20%. I will take 80% in my hand, or I will reinvest 50%. I will take 50% in my hand, or I will reinvest 80%. I will take only 20% in my hand. So there are several options. I can take some output and I can put some fraction, reinvest. Now the question is, this is a mathematical model I am going to work on. So how the mathematical model? Because the rate of change in the output will always depend upon how much I am reinvesting. So how much I am reinvesting? I am taking alpha 1 minus alpha t fraction I am taking in my hand, and alpha t fraction I am putting back. So my rate of change in the output will always directly proportional to the fraction I am reinvesting. So x dot will be equal to some k times alpha t into x of t with some initial data x naught. Now, what I need to maximize? I need to maximize my profit. So what is my total profit? I am taking 1 minus alpha t profit from the company of the total output. The total output is x of t. So 1 minus alpha t times x of t is my total output in any time. So from 0 to t, my total output will be integral 0 to t 1 minus t into alpha t into x of t dt. So this is my total payoff functional. I want to maximize this payoff functional. There are several options for my alpha. I can have a 60%, 40%, 20%, 80%. There are several options. Out of all these options, what will be the optimal one so that I will get the maximum profit? Okay, that is the question. Now, if you compare this one with my original model, as you can see, your A set, the control set will be 0 to 1 because my control is always between 0 and 1. My F is just k times AX. R, my running cost is 1 minus A into X. And G, of course, there is no terminus cost, so G is 0. This is my mathematical model for this control of production and consumption problem. Surprisingly, the optimal control turns out to be in this way. What is the way? You reinvest your full amount up to certain time t, complete whatever the output you are getting, you reinvest. There will be a time t star. In that time, you can stop it. After that, you don't need to reinvest anything. You just take the all output. 100% output you can take. So this turns out to be the optimal trajectory of this problem. So there is a mathematical way to prove it. I'm not going to that part. But interestingly, this is the optimal strategy. The strategy is you find a time t star up to which you completely reinvest. Whatever the output you are taking, you completely reinvest in the factory. And there will be a time t star. After that, you don't need to reinvest anything. Whatever you are getting after that, it is completely your profit. So this is an optimal strategy for this problem. So there is an important one point, that is the point where you have to switch over. Means at what time you have to stop reinvesting completely into your factory. And such controls have some name. They are called bank controls. So you are putting something at a full and after some time nothing. So this kind of controls are called bang controls, or in the way like you are putting like 1 up to sometime, 0 up to after some time, or 1 up to sometime, -1 after some time, something like that. Those kind of controls are called bang controls. Let me go to another example. So this is an example from the biology. So you can say mathematical biology. So you know, all of you know the bees, the honey bees. So what they are doing? So they will collect honey from flowers and all. They will put in honeycomb, and there always will be queues. So they will collect honey according to the number of queues. So there is always a question: how much honey you can make the maximum? In the sense like there are two ways. Either you increase the number of queues. Of course, there will be a natural death of workers also. So it depends on several factors now. So for this problem, I am taking WT to be the number of workers at time t, Q to be the number of queues, and alpha is the fractional colony of the bees which are devoted increasing the workforce. So I am basically saying that alpha is the fraction. Again, it is a fraction of the workers. They are increasing the workload or workforce. So of course, alpha will be between 0 and 1 because I am taking the fraction. Now let me go to the mathematical model. So the mathematical model is given by this one. The dynamics of the number of workers will always depend on how many workers are dying. That's why that negative sign. So the change in number of workers is always depending on the number of workers which are dying. That is the death rate. Mu is the death rate. And now it always depends on the fraction. B is a constant and alpha is a fraction of number of workers. S of t is the known rate at which the workers contribute to the bee colony. Now, again, you have a dynamics of the queues also. For the dynamics of the queues, you can easily see that the rate of change of the queues will always depend on the number of queues they are dying. So minus nu times q. Nu is the rate at which queues are dying. And of course, as you know, there are some workers which are not contributing to workforce, but they need for the queue, actually reproductive things. So you need 1 minus alpha times S of t into WT, which will also contribute to the number of queues, because alpha is the rate at which the workforce is done, and 1 minus alpha is the rate at which workforce is not done. In the sense like they are needed for reproduction and all. So that's why 1 minus alpha times S of t WT will be contributed to Q. So this is a system of equations right now. Now, what you want to maximize in this course? The question is, the answer is you have to maximize the number of queues. If the number of queues increases, more workers will do more work frequently and they will collect more honey. So the question is, you have to maximize the queue at time t. So in this problem, there is no running cost. At time t, you want to maximize the number of queues. So in this case, that's why I took the x to be a vector. In this case, our vector x is wq and x naught is w naught q naught. Initially, how much bees and queues were there. Here r is 0 because there is no running cost, and g, the final cost, is q. So again, it turns out to be, again in this case also, it is a bang control, meaning you have to give full work for up to some time. After that, you can have no work by maximizing the number of queues. Again, it is going to be a bang control. You can prove it. Let me go to another example. It is more into physics. So in this case, as all of you know that if you have a second order differential equation, suppose you have a lambda to be 0. So just theta double dot plus omega square theta equal to 0. Simple pendulum. So in a simple pendulum, as all of you know that the solution is sin omega t cos omega t. That is the wave solution. So theta is the angular time t I am taking. Now if you have a damping in the system, that means I am adding a parameter lambda theta dot. Suppose lambda is positive, then you will of course get a damping in the system. So the damping will give you, your sine curve will become, actually it will go to 0 as t go into infinity. The curve is given in the picture. So as the amplitude will go, eventually it will die out as t go into infinity. Now how you bring the control problem here? That may be the question you are thinking. Now the control problem can be brought in another way. Suppose you apply a torque in the system and you can make it as external forcing. I am applying some external forcing to the system. That's why that alpha t is appearing here. This alpha t is appearing here. Now, if you apply torque in the system, now my question is, you can transform this problem into a second order, first order differential equation. How will you transform? You define another variable x1 by theta and x2 by theta dot, and you substitute x1 and x2 in your theta equation, and you can define x dot equal to theta dot theta double dot by x1 dot x2 dot, and you can transform into a system in this form, which is your f of x alpha. Now the question coming here is, what you want to maximize? In the sense like, I want to bring a alpha in such a way that, as I mentioned in the picture also, the wave motion will go eventually to zero as t going to infinity. I want to find a time, or I want to fix a time. In that time, I want to become the change to be zero, or the curve should go to zero up to some. I know that it will go to zero in some, say, t going to infinity. I don't want to wait up to t going to infinity. I want to stop my oscillations, say, before that. That's why I'm applying this control. So here the problem is p of alpha is minus integral 0 to 1 d tau, which is minus tau. Why I am bringing minus? Because my problem is a maximization problem. So I want to find the minimal time in which the curve will go to zero, or the oscillation will go to zero. I want to find the minimal time. Since it is a minimization problem, that's why I'm bringing a minus time. So minus of a minimization problem is a maximization problem. That's why minus tau will give you a maximization problem. So I want to maximize the minus tau or minimize the time. So tau is the first time at which x of tau equal to 0. Or in other words, the angle and the velocity will become 0. So I want to make x of tau is 0, or the oscillation becomes 0. What is the first time? Now, as you can see, this problem is not falling in the category of the one I described earlier, but this is also another kind of optimization optimal control problem, which is called the time optimal control problem. So here, the meaning is that we want to minimize the time which takes to bring the pendulum to rest. What is the minimal time? By applying this torque or the control. So these problems are called, there is no terminal cost or like a fixed time. These are called fixed endpoint free time problem. Now, so as all of you know, another example, like recently our Chandrayaan 2 was a failure, as all of you know. What was the failure problem? There was a problem in soft landing. So what is a soft landing? That was the biggest trouble in like all the activities of this NASA and all, or ISRO and all, because especially like a spacecraft, it should be land very softly to the earth of moon. That is a very big question, because if it falls on the moon surface with a full thrust, it will collapse. It will completely like destroy. So we want to have a soft landing on the moon surface by using least amount of fuel. So that is the question. That is the soft landing problem of the lunar surface using least amount of fuel. Now, so I'm giving a simple model for this problem. So suppose h of t is the height from the spacecraft to the moon surface. V is the velocity, that is h dot. M is the mass of the aircraft. Of course, remember, mass will also change, because as the fuel is burning, mass will also change. The mass of the aircraft will also change. And alpha is the thrust at the time t. Again, alpha is between 0 and 1. And by Newton's law, F equal to ma, the force applied is mass times acceleration. So m h double dot equal to the total mass is minus gm plus alpha. Alpha is the rate at which the fuel is burning. So the right hand side is being the difference of gravitational force and thrust of the rocket. And now, once you can model this problem in this way, the velocity v dot will be equal to minus g plus m alpha by m, and the velocity field s dot will be equal to vt, and the change in mass will be equal to minus k time alpha t, because it is the rate at which the fuel is burning. So m dot, the change of mass will be m dot will be minus k alpha t. So we can write this problem into a system x dot equal to f of x of t alpha t, where x will be v, h, and m. Okay. Now the question is, I want to minimize the amount of fuel used up. So the meaning is, we want to minimize m of tau. We want to minimize m of tau. So we want to maximize the amount of once we have landed. So thus we want to maximize m of tau. Tau denotes the first time at which h of tau and v of tau are 0. This is called a variable endpoint problem. since the final time is not fixed. We don't know when it is going to land on the moon, and at that time we want to maximize the fuel also. So, of course, there is an extra constraint because your height as well as m, the mass should be positive. They cannot be negative. So this is also a constraint optimization problem, you can say. So this is another example of your optimization problem. And let me come to the final example of optimization problem, where this is called a rocket railroad car, meaning it is a railroad car. In both its ends, rockets are fixed in the left end and as well as in the right end. Rockets are fixed, and in this case, we introduce some variables, say like q of t is the position at time t, v is the velocity, which is q dot, velocity at time t, alpha is the thrust from the rocket. And since I am burning rockets from or throwing rockets from both the sides, left side and right side, so my alpha t will be between -1 and +1, depending on which side the engine is firing. If it is on the right side, alpha will be +1. If it is on the left side, alpha will be -1. In that way, I am fixing my alpha between -1 and +1. So of course, once again, if I use Newton's law, m q dot equal to q double dot equal to alpha, which is Newton's law, f equal to ma. Now, if you rewrite the system in this, one can rewrite very easily in this form by changing the variable x equal to q and v. Now, the question is, we want to arrive at, the question is, you are firing. For example, if you fire a rocket, what is your aim? You want to make sure that rocket will land at particular some place which we have decided. So if I want to land the rocket in some place, say for example, some surface of some planet, or even in Earth also, you want to put in some say some sea area. So I want to specify which is the place where it is going to launch, where it is going to land. So I am calling that particular point where it is going to land, I am calling it as the origin. And where I am starting, it is a point in the XY plane. You can think it that way. Wherever it is going to land, it is my origin. So I want to bring my rocket from one place to origin in minimal time. That is what my question is. What is in a minimum time I want to bring from one position of the rocket to the origin? So I want to minimize the time. Again, my problem is maximization problem. So I want to minimize minus tau. So tau is the first time at which the height, q, and the velocity will become 0. That's what my question is. What is the first time by which I can take my rocket, or can fire my rocket from one position to the origin? This is the question I'm going to ask. Now, so I want to give a geometrical solution for this problem. So how will you illustrate this problem geometrically? So we can find an optimal control in this way. You fire the rocket with the full thrust, either from the left or from the right. So how you are going to fire the rocket? That is the question. I have to use full thrust, no doubt. Full thrust I am using. With the full power, I have to fire the rocket either from left side or from the right side. So let us go to why this is an interesting problem. Let us see in a geometrical way. So first, let us consider this problem. Q dot is the velocity. Q dot equal to v, and I am taking my if I fire it from the right with the full thrust, I will get the velocity v dot equal to 1. Because v dot is the acceleration, v dot equal to 1. And if you multiply these two guys, you will get v dot equal to q dot. So you will get half times v dot square equal to q dot. If you integrate this quantity from say from t naught to t, you will get v square by 2 minus v square at t naught by 2 equal to qt minus q t naught. Now, if you simplify this equation, you will get v square equal to 2q plus v square at t naught minus 2q at t naught. That last quantity is a constant because it is at time t naught. So it is, I am calling it as some b. If you look at equation 1, you can easily see that it is a parabola. So which is v square equal to 2q plus b, which is a parabola, and a constant for some constant b. Now, if I look at the trajectory for alpha equal to 1, it is a parabola, of course. So this is a parabola. If you change b, you will get different parabolas. In the meaning, like maybe you are at some position x-axis. Say, if you look at the last parabola in the xy plane, in the positive xy plane, if you fire from some point from the positive xy plane in the last parabola, the rocket will fall in that way. Or another way, if you fire from any other point, it will be fall in this direction. That is the meaning of this parabola says. Now, if I take the negative one, that means the left one, if I fire from the left side, so Again, if you consider the trajectories, q dot equal to v and v dot equal to -1. So again, if you multiply the equation and then integrate, then you will get another parabola which is of the form v square equal to -2q plus c, where c is again a constant, because I am integrating from some time to t1 to t. So c is coming to be 2 times q into t1 minus v square t1, which is again a constant. I am getting another parabola in the another direction. So I am getting the parabola in the another direction, opposite direction, v square equal to -2q plus c. Now, what is the optimal strategy here? For alpha equal to 1, you are getting one parabola, v square equal to 2q plus b. For alpha equal to -1, you are getting another parabola, v square equal to -2q plus c. Now, my question is, how will you steer to the origin? Starting from any point, how will you come to the origin? By applying these two controls, +1 and -1. So the answer is very simple. You can see in this picture. So, for example, I am starting from the black dot. So, from the black dot, you can see that there will be a parabola which is going like that. So, you from that dot, you travel that parabola. Say you apply -1, you first fire from the left, then you are taking my trajectory to some point which is coming down. There will be some parabola which is passing to the origin, by applying the alpha equal to 1 force. So you come to that parabola. At that time, you apply full thrust from the right side. So you are changing your trajectory and you are going to the origin. There were several parabolas. Whatever the point you choose, you select a parabola from that particular point. You apply -1, maybe for example this one, -1 first time. Then you are going, come to one parabola which is going passing through the origin. Then you apply the opposite side. This is the bang control again. Apply full thrust from the left side, full thrust the right side. At some point, reach the origin. So this is the way you can apply the you can get to the origin by in minimal time. Now, so this is all about my talk, and basically I took all the material from this LC Evans. So that is very famous lecture notes by Evans, and he actually basically it is the first chapter. In the later chapters, he is giving mathematical theory behind this mathematical optimal control theory. So there are several mathematical objects. So this is also, you can think like a simple problem, like a maximization problem. So you want to maximize x plus y such that x and y lie on a circle, say x square plus y square equal to 1. This is the same problem. You are coming into a different picture. You want to maximize some payoff functional subject to a differential equation. Same thing. In the maximization problem, you have first order optimal condition, second order optimal condition. The same thing will come here also. That they are called Pontryagin maximum principle, second order optimality condition. Like that, it will come. So it is all these theories are discussed in LC Evans. It is in the finite dimension theory, and you can have an infinite dimension theory also. You can go to this book by Bressan, or Kirk also gives a more applicable way. He is explaining optimal control theory. So thank you so much for your kind attention. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir, for such a valuable session. I think it was something new for most of us. Now it's time for asking our doubts regarding the delivered topic. If you have any doubts, you can either unmute your audio and ask, or post it as comments in the chat box.
Thank you, Leah, and thank you, sir, for your wonderful talk. Next, we are moving on to our interactive session. ഇതിലേക്ക് പോകുന്നതിന് മുമ്പ് ഈ സെഷന്റെ ജസ്റ്റ് ഒരു ഔട്ട്ലൈൻ ഞാൻ നിങ്ങൾക്കൊന്ന് പറയാം. ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് രജിസ്ട്രേഷൻ സമയത്ത് ഒരു ബിഗ് സെറ്റ് ഓഫ് ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ ലഭിച്ചിരുന്നു. ഈ സെറ്റ് ഓഫ് ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസ് നമ്മുടെ റിസോഴ്സ് പേഴ്സണിലേക്ക് ഒന്ന് കൺവേ ചെയ്യാനായി ഞങ്ങൾ ഒരു ഇന്ററാക്ഷൻ പാനലിനെ രൂപീകരിച്ചിട്ടുണ്ട്. അവരുമായുള്ള ഇന്ററാക്ഷൻ ആയിരിക്കും ഇനിയുള്ളത്. അവർ കൺവേ ചെയ്യുന്ന ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസും അത് ഏത് പാർട്ടിസിപ്പന്റിൽ നിന്ന് വന്നതാണെന്നും നിങ്ങൾക്ക് ചാറ്റ് ബോക്സിൽ കാണാൻ കഴിയുന്നതാണ്. ഈ സമയത്ത് നിങ്ങൾക്ക് ആർക്കെങ്കിലും ഈ ടോപ്പിക്കിനെ പറ്റിയോ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ മാത്തമാറ്റിക്സുമായി ബന്ധപ്പെട്ട് എന്തെങ്കിലും ഡൗട്ടോ നമ്മുടെ റിസോഴ്സ് പേഴ്സണുമായിട്ട് ഇന്ററാക്ട് ചെയ്യണമെന്ന് ആഗ്രഹമുണ്ടെങ്കിലോ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് ചാറ്റ് ബോക്സിലൂടെ അറിയിക്കാവുന്നതാണ്. നമ്മുടെ പാനലിന്റെ ഇന്ററാക്ഷൻ ടൈം അവസാനിക്കുന്നതോടുകൂടി അവസാനിച്ചു കഴിയുമ്പോൾ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് ഡൗട്ട് ക്ലാരിഫിക്കേഷനും റിസോഴ്സ് പേഴ്സണുമായിട്ടുള്ള ഇന്ററാക്ഷനും നടത്താവുന്നതാണ്. സോ നമ്മൾ ഇനി നമ്മുടെ ഇന്ററാക്ഷൻ സെഷനിലേക്ക് കടക്കുകയാണ്. സോ ഞാൻ ജസ്റ്റ് നമ്മുടെ ഇന്ററാക്ഷൻ പാനലിനെ ഒന്ന് പരിചയപ്പെടുത്താം. ഫസ്റ്റ്, ഇറ്റ് കൺസിസ്റ്റ് ഓഫ് 5 members. Sarath S from second year PG, Amina Sharan from third year BSc, R. Srilakshmi, Tasneem, and Harish from first year BSc. So guys, I'm handovering the session to you. Amina, please.
Good morning, sir. I'm Amina Sharan, third year BSc student. We all are actually privileged to have you here, sir, especially for this interactive session. So, our first question for you is, since you're a fellow from both Kerala University and a national institute like ISER, and now a professor in IIT, what are the differences you found in the academic systems of both? How the students from local universities could also upgrade into such a level, and also your opinion about the current educational system in India.
Okay, so it's a lengthy question first of all. Let me answer one by one. So never think that you are from a local university or local college. There is nothing local or international. It depends like where you want to be. That is the question you have to ask always. So for example, let me tell my story, then you will understand. So I did my BSc as well as MSc from Marivani's College. So never think like, I think most of you may not be aware like there is a, now you may be aware that there is a entrance exam for MSc in IITs, JAM is there. Actually, I was living in a time there I didn't even know that there is the possibility of getting a position in IIT for MSc. So because I won't say that it's a problem of my teachers or something. There was like a very less resources that I know that JAM is there. I don't know really that in my MSc time. So only thing I know is Kerala University. That was the maximum thing I can think of. Even though I got an admission in Kerala University, I didn't take admission. So I joined in my college, Marivani's College. And after that, I worked in two colleges. One is MG College and another is University College. So at that time, also I didn't know that there are several institutes whether I can go for PhD and all. Luckily, I will say luckily I got admission in ISER Trivandrum. And as all of you know that I was from a background as you people like I don't even know how to speak in English. There was difficulty like even in my college there was a function at that time. One of my teachers asked me to speak in English, and I told her that no, I cannot. If you want me to say something, I will say in Malayalam only. So that opportunity was like gone from my hand because I didn't know English at that time. So that there were lots of questions in front of me that I don't know English. It is a national level institute, so I am going there. How I will survive there? So these questions actually these are baseless questions. I will say it is about you, how you want to be, how you want to be in a system. Never think that we are the only people. They are odd one out. No, never. For example, like when in my initial days at ISER, actually I thought of quit ISER several times because like I was having from a system where 9 to 3:30 class is there or 10 to 3:30 class is there. After that, I'm going home and like continuous lectures from teachers. So it was entirely different in ISER that so for example, like when I joined in ISER, my supervisor, he gave me one book, partial differential equation by again L.C. Evans. Okay, so he told me that you just read this book. So of course, as all of you know that there is not much courses are related to PDE or ODE in our curriculum in Kerala University. So only one paper is there, which is combined ODE and PDE. So I was having only very little. I will say little even is also that is not a good word. Zero knowledge in PDE, I will say. So he gave me this book and asked me to read and asked me to present. It was very tough for me to convince like myself also that whether I am suitable for this position. Then I talked with several people. Like even I remember that I talked with your teacher Adarsh also. So I talked with several people, including my teachers in Marivani's and teachers in University College. So they told me one important thing. See, this is an opportunity that is getting only for a handful of people. A very limited number of people are getting this opportunity. You should not waste this chance. For example, I will tell another interesting story that actually at that time after my MSc, I appeared 3 places for interviews, 3 colleges. One is PKM Engineering College and one is Marivanes College. I applied twice. Actually, they didn't select me. I was I was very sad at that time. Like I didn't get selection. But actually, if I go back and think about that time, it was a golden I will say that was a golden decision that I didn't get a selection there because the way I came from like as a PhD student to now where I'm standing, it is entirely different. If I was in a college, I may be just with interacting with some students from my college only. Now I got an opportunity to interact with several people, several big mathematicians. I got opportunity to go to several places, like give talks and all, interact with more people. So always it is a I will say there are some life-changing decisions. That is very important in our life. You have to decide something that okay, I will go with this. Whatever happens, this is my decision. I will stick to it, and no one can stop me. If you decide like that, then nothing, whatever you decide, it is going to be in your way. So that's what my feeling about IISER Trivandrum. Okay. Now the one more thing I want to add. What is the difference between our university system and IITs or like IISER? The difference is, I will say these are 24/7 institutes. Means they are working all the time. Libraries open all the time. Teachers can go to their faculties anytime. They can ask doubts, or even faculties will fix some separate time. For students. They will have interaction. For example, with my PhD students, my interaction time is night, like evening 7 to 9. So that flexibility is there. And even teaching also, it is not like a book, like only bookish teaching, or the questions will be only asked from book. Actually, it will be more thought-provoking questions. Sometimes the exam will be open book exam. So there are much more liberties there in our system, I will say. That is one big difference between IISER and or the university system and IISER. I will say that. So I think I have answered for that question.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for your words.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
I'm Sri Lakshmi, our panelist number 2 from S3.
Hello.
Thank you so much for your session, sir. Your story was very inspiring. My first question is by Vandana Uday Kumar from S5. Who is your most inspired mathematician?
Okay, so I don't know. I don't have any such most inspired. I am inspired by all mathematicians, because I have seen several people they are big mathematicians. Actually, I learned one thing especially from my postdoc supervisor. I can say he is my role model also. I can say why I am saying he is my role model, because he actually did a MSc. He actually did a BTech mechanical engineering from Sri Lanka, and then went to US for aeronautical engineering or something for MTech, a MS degree. After that, he took a PhD in applied mathematics, and he is he knows mathematics better than any good mathematicians. I will say in that way, because it is about the passion, how passionate he is looking at problems, he is working. I still remember one incident that when I was doing my postdoc in the Air Force Institute of Technology, he was the vice chancellor of that university, and actually he was giving lectures to me every week, 3 hours, like Monday, Thursday, and Friday, from 2 to 3. He was giving one hour lecture every week. See, you can think in your university also VCs are there. See, this is the way how you are looking at your student, how you want to motivate your student. So that's what I will say. Most of the mathematicians always inspired me, because the way they are looking at the problem, the way they are understanding the problem, the way they are learning the subject. See, they will ask always. If you assume something, they will ask. If you are not assuming that thing, what will happen? If the assumption is not like this, what will happen? So they will ask always questions. If it is not, what will happen? So these are the questions they will ask always. And another thing I have observed in several people, that Once you have get knowledge, people will say my understanding is very limited. Like I know very little about the area, very little about the subject. I have to learn a lot. My supervisor will always say that I am a lifelong learner. So I'm learning every day, new subject, new areas. I'm learning from different people. So that is the way I am looking at the subject, and almost all the mathematicians inspired me. I will say that.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay.
ഹലോ സാർ, എൻ്റെ പേര് ശരത്.
Yeah. Hello, sir.
ഞാൻ ചോദിക്കാം, all the properties of real space is followed in complex space also. Then what is the necessity of studying real analysis and complex analysis both instead of learning complex analysis only?
Okay, so that question, I may not be a right person to answer the question because it is a big question. First of all, I will say one small difference. Actually, you can think about analytic functions in complex analysis. So if you think about in a neighborhood of a point, it is differentiable. Actually, it is infinite time differentiable. Analytic means it is infinite time differentiable. There is no question like one time differentiable, two time differentiable, three time differentiable. But of course, if you take real line only, you can have such functions. Say for example, mod x, it is a function which is one time differentiable, but not it is continuous but not differentiable. But if you take mod x mod x, which is one time differentiable, not two times. If you take x square mod x, two time differentiable, that means in real analysis I can get ck function. So k time differentiable function. So there is, I can have a class of functions also. If you go to complex, analyticity is a concept which is differentiable, infinite time differentiable, right? And there only you can talk about two things: non-differentiability and infinite time differentiability. But in that is a simple, like you can say, simple difference, I will say. Okay, and complex planes, it is the most generalized one, and there are several things. For example, if you study linear algebra also, you talk about eigenvalues. You may have a matrix which has real entries, but you may not even get a eigenvalue for your in real case. For example, I think you must have 0, -1, 1, 0. Maybe you take an example like that. That matrix will have a real entries, but you will have a complex eigenvalue. So the complex and real, it is like you cannot say it is a subset and just I am studying that. If you consider it as a different field and its properties, then it will be a different story then. Okay, so there is nothing like I am studying something in real line, that since complex line, if I study, it will be completely applicable to real line. No, it is not like that. You cannot say easily like that. That's what my opinion is. It's a big question, so I'm not a person to answer that question in a broad way. Okay.
Hi, sir.
Hello.
I'm Tasneem Shahjahan. So, since you said a lot of technology and we say Max as tune of science, my question is, what is the scope of Max in space science and research?
See, I have in my talk also I have shown you one big application. See, optimal control theory, where the moon landing problem comes. I have seen another one, rocket reloader. So there are several. See, whoever be in the ISRO or whoever be in the VSSC or whoever be in the NASA, they are all basically mathematicians. They are doing all mathematics. For example, they may be doing some numerical stuff. We are doing some theoretical stuff to justify the thing. That is only difference. So mathematics, like you cannot. I have shown you some example of mathematical biology also. Mathematical biology is a subject which is nowadays blooming like anything. After this COVID-19, our this models regarding COVID-19, how mathematically model COVID-19. There are even projects people like DSC called projects also for COVID-19. So never think that mathematics is a subject which is scopeless or endless. For example, see, in the 1920s, whatever Ramanujan was doing, people were asking, what is the application? If you now, in nowadays, if you take cryptography, if you take crypto systems, everything, number theory. So number theory was a subject people were considering to be a pure subject. Now it is applicable like, I cannot even say number of primes and all. It is like applicable like anything. So we cannot say that it has something scopeless subject. It has huge scope and its applications are endless in chemistry, physics, what not. It is engineering field, everywhere it is applicable, and scope is so high that It's a now like institute are starting courses like mathematics and computing. I think this is Kerala government also thinking of starting different courses. Actually, you can think of a university also can think of a course like mathematics and computing, where mathematics, how the computing subject will play in the role in mathematics, how you can use mathematics in computing. That is another. Now I think 2-3 IITs already started. We have an integrated MSc program on applied mathematics, where we mostly teach computer-related subject plus mathematics. So its scope is endless. You can have a large scope of in this mathematics area. Okay.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
I am Harish. I am Harish from second year BSc. I am going to ask the question by Lakshmi B. Nair from PG.
Okay.
How we understand the relation between problem solving and development of higher order thinking skills in mathematics, teaching and studying.
Okay, so problem solving. See, this is also another drawback. I won't say it's a drawback. Actually, I had also same problem because we were studying only theory in our almost all the subjects. So we were not able to solve the problems. Actually, I will say like whenever you learn some theory is important. You cannot say that without theory nothing is going to work. So theory is important. We need to learn the theory. So by learning the theory, you have to think about more problems, how this theory is applied to problems, how I can solve these problems. Especially you have to crack loads of exams. If you want to crack loads of exams, you need to give some your time to learn theory plus how to apply that theory to problems. So that is very important part. And higher order thinking skills. So it is about see, day by day we are learning. So for example, in my case, I have read something maybe it's 2 years back. At that time, I was not able to understand what is happening there. But now, if I am reading that particular part, I can understand the thing. Why? Because I learned lots of other things related to that in my whole 2 years. So now I am in a position that I can understand that. So this is not a one-day process. So learning will come slowly. It will like by your understanding, how you are understanding things, how you are thinking about that particular problem, and how the process comes. Like you have to read. If you cannot understand, maybe you stop for some time. You take it after 2 weeks, after 2 months, then you again read. By that time, you may have learned something more from that topic. So the thinking should be like that, not like you take the book and completely read it and understand it. Then there is no chance. So understanding comes when you will get inner satisfaction. Inner satisfaction comes only when if it is you are not getting easily. It should be from your side. If somebody solves a problem and give it to you, you understand it. It is not at all inner satisfaction. Inner satisfaction will get when you solve the problem yourself, and that means you understood the concept. If somebody else solved the problem and give it to you, that means he understood the concept and you mucked up the concept. So there is a huge difference. So thinking style will come only when you think from your inner side. Never ask a doubt to a teacher immediately. You try yourself. You try and try. Unless you get, there will be a situation you are 100% sure that I am not able to solve. Then only you go for a teacher. You go to clear with your friends. Until that time, never get anything easily. If you get something easily, that is worthless. Getting anything easy, that is worthless. Worthful only when if you pay for it. You pay your time. You pay your money. You pay your life. Then only...
So the next question for you is...
Yeah, please. Hello.
So the next question for you is, why there is only few opportunities like teaching and research for those students who take maths as main?
No, it is also a false concept. There is not only teaching and research. If you, as I mentioned earlier, if you are going to a subject like mathematics and computing or integrated math programs in IIT Kanpur or IIT here in IIT Roorkee. So here students are not going, integrated students are not going for mathematics only for teaching or research. They are going for companies also. They are going to Microsoft. They are doing several other jobs also. You should not say that only it is teaching and research. So of course, teaching and research is a part, and it is one of the beautiful areas also, because it is your satisfaction or your way of thought should be there, so that it should be from your side only. It should not be from like somebody else forces you. If you are very good at thinking style or thinking abilities, you are very good at reading things or understanding things, then you can go for teaching or research. No problem. It is a passion. Don't think that only option is teaching and research. There are several options. Like if you want to go for more companies like Microsoft or any other company, for mathematicians there is a huge chance, because algorithm development, this is the main thing, right? So for example, I'll give a simple example. You just click on the Google, you type something, you are getting the one you selected. Most of the pages will be completely really depending on what you are typed. That is actually based on algorithm. That is by mathematicians or people like mathematicians. So that is also algorithm developments, and all these things are very, very important. So you should not say that only teaching and research are the only things in our by taking mathematics as a major. Okay.
Okay, sir. Is it true that statistics is just higher mathematics? What is your opinion?
Statistics is not a higher mathematics. Statistics is actually, you cannot say it is not a higher mathematics. You are studying statistics also, right? I think in your BSc program there should be a statistics course. It is not higher mathematics. You cannot say everything is higher mathematics when it comes to deep into it. Statistics is a different branch of subject. Mathematics is a different branch. Even if you go to statistics, actually people will confuse with the statistics and probability. Probability is a different subject. Probability is a different area. Those who are working in probability theory, we call them as probabilists. Those who are working in statistics, we call them as statisticians. Those who work in mathematics, we are calling them mathematicians. But statistics is such a subject which is needed for all. For example, engineers, for example, medical people, because they are dealing with data. So when you dealing with the data, statisticians are needed for data analysis. So it is a very important subject, I will say. It is not like something higher or something. It is an important subject that everybody should learn actually. Okay.
Sir, നമ്മുടെ ടൈം ഓൾമോസ്റ്റ് കംപ്ലീറ്റ് ആവാറായിരിക്കുന്നു.
You can ask one or two questions more. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, sir, for this interaction. ഈ പ്രോഗ്രാം ഇത്ര നല്ല രീതിയിൽ ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് കോർഡിനേറ്റ് ചെയ്ത് തന്ന് ഇതിനു വേണ്ടിയിട്ട് ഓരോ കാര്യങ്ങളും ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് വേണ്ടിയിട്ട് അപ്ഡേറ്റ് ചെയ്ത് ഓരോ കാര്യങ്ങൾ ഞങ്ങളിലേക്ക് എത്തിച്ച് ഞങ്ങളുടെ സ്റ്റുഡൻസ് കോർഡിനേറ്റർ കശ്യപ് ആണ്. കശ്യപിന്റെ പങ്ക് ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് വിസ്മരിക്കാൻ പറ്റില്ല. സോ നൗ ഐ ഇൻവൈറ്റ് കശ്യപ് എൽഎസ് ഫോർ എ വോട്ട് ഓഫ് താങ്ക്സ്.
എല്ലാവർക്കും നമസ്കാരം. എൻ്റെ പേര് കശ്യപ്. ഞാൻ 5th സെമസ്റ്റർ BSc മാത്തമാറ്റിക്സ് സ്റ്റുഡൻ്റ് ആണ്. സൈൻ ഓഫ് കോഴ്സിൻ്റെ ഈ അധ്യയന വർഷത്തെ പരിപാടികൾക്ക് നമ്മൾ തുടക്കം കുറിച്ചിരിക്കുകയാണ്. അതിൻ്റെ ആദ്യഘട്ടമായി നടന്ന പ്രോഗ്രാമാണ് ഇന്ന് നടന്ന മീറ്റ് ദ സ്കോളർ. മീറ്റ് ദ സ്കോളറിലേക്ക് നമ്മുടെ ക്ഷണം സ്വീകരിച്ച് നമ്മളൊക്കെ സ്വപ്നം കാണുന്ന IIT-യിൽ നിന്നും എത്തിച്ചേർന്ന ഡോക്ടർ മനിൽ സാറിന് സൈൻ ഓഫ് കോഴ്സിൻ്റെ പേരിലുള്ള നന്ദിയും സ്നേഹവും അറിയിക്കുകയാണ്. മാത്തമാറ്റിക്സിൻ്റെ എല്ലാ മേഖലയിലുമുള്ള ചോദ്യങ്ങൾക്ക് സമയ പരിമിതിയിൽ ഉൾക്കൊണ്ട് നിന്ന് മികച്ച രീതിയിൽ ഉത്തരം നൽകിയ അദ്ദേഹത്തിന് എല്ലാവിധ ആശംസകളും സൈൻ ഓഫ് കോഴ്സിന്റെ പേരിൽ അർപ്പിക്കുന്നു. അടുത്തതായി നമ്മുടെ ഹെഡ് ഓഫ് ദ ഡിപ്പാർട്ട്മെന്റ് നാരായണ പ്രസാദ് സാർ. അദ്ദേഹം നമ്മുടെ കോളേജിലെ ദീർഘകാല സേവനത്തിന് ശേഷം പാലക്കാട് ചിറ്റൂർ കോളേജിലേക്ക് പോവുകയാണ്. അവിടെയും മികച്ച സേവനം നടത്താൻ അദ്ദേഹത്തെ ആശംസിക്കുകയാണ്. അതോടൊപ്പം സൈൻ ഓഫ് കോഴ്സിന്റെ സ്നേഹവും കടപ്പാടും നന്ദിയും അറിയിക്കുന്നു. അതുപോലെ നമ്മുടെ എല്ലാ പ്രവർത്തനങ്ങൾക്കും സപ്പോർട്ടായി നിൽക്കുന്ന നമ്മുടെ ടീച്ചർ കോർഡിനേറ്ററായ ആദർ സാറിന് പ്രത്യേകം അറിയിക്കേണ്ട കാര്യമില്ല, എങ്കിലും ഔപചാരികതയുടെ പേരിൽ എല്ലാവിധ നന്ദിയും സ്നേഹവും അറിയിക്കുന്നു. അതുപോലെ തന്നെ നമ്മുടെ മാത്തമാറ്റിക്സ് ഡിപ്പാർട്ട്മെന്റിലെ അധ്യാപകരായ ഹരിലാൽ സാറ്, ആഷിഖ് സാറ്, അശ്വതി മിസ്, നിസ മിസ്, റിസാന മിസ്, എല്ലാവർക്കും ഞങ്ങളുടെ നന്ദിയും സ്നേഹവും അറിയിക്കുകയാണ്. അതുപോലെ നമ്മുടെ കോളേജിലെ മറ്റ് ഡിപ്പാർട്ട്മെന്റിലുള്ള എല്ലാ അധ്യാപകർക്കും നമ്മുടെ നന്ദി അറിയിക്കുകയാണ്. അതുപോലെ തന്നെ ഈ സൈൻ ഓഫ് കോഴ്സിന്റെ പ്രവർത്തനങ്ങൾക്ക് ചുക്കാൻ പിടിക്കുന്ന സ്റ്റുഡന്റ് കോർഡിനേറ്റർമാരായ ശ്രീലക്ഷ്മി, തസ്നീം, ഹരീഷ്, അൽഷീമ, ആമിന, ഷെറിൻ, ശരത്, ലിയ, ജിനു എന്നിവർക്കെല്ലാം എൻ്റെയും സൈൻ ഓഫ് കോഴ്സിന്റെയും പേരുള്ള നന്ദി അറിയിക്കുകയാണ്. അവസാനമായി ഈ വെബിനാറിൽ പങ്കെടുത്ത് ഇതൊരു വലിയ സംരംഭമാക്കി മാറ്റിയ എല്ലാ വിദ്യാർത്ഥിനികൾക്കും നന്ദിയും സ്നേഹവും അറിയിച്ചുകൊണ്ട് നിർത്തുന്നു. നന്ദി, നമസ്കാരം.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Manil?
Yeah.
മീറ്റിംഗ് ഉണ്ട് എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞുകൊണ്ട് ഷാർപ്പായിട്ട് നിർത്തിയത്.
11. Yeah. Thank you so much. So anyway, so thank you so much for this giving me an opportunity also. So now I can leave, right? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.